Hello and welcome to the Love and Meaning podcast. I'm your host, Christelle Robinson Tiedemann. This week, I have a very fun and exciting episode for you, a special one. I'm doing something a little bit different. This episode is actually a recording of a live that I did on Instagram. I have a special series on Instagram called Lessons from a Sixth Line. And in those lives, I present a lesson. I share a lesson that I've learned pretty much through trial and error from the perspective of being a sixth line profile in human design. I won't take the time now to describe to you what that is because I'm about to explain it to you in the live. So you'll get a little teaching on what I mean about that. But this live series, I think, is so cool and it's so fun to do. And the topic that I'm talking about today, the fallacy of failure, is such a good one. So I wanted to share it here on the podcast as well, because I think that it's one that really everybody can relate to. And it's just been so impactful and powerful for me that I hope that it can be just as helpful for you. If you're interested in checking out that live series, you can follow me on Instagram, Goddess of Practicality. They're all available there. And also, I have downloaded them all here on my YouTube. I'm saying here because you could be listening on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts. So I should say on my YouTube channel, which is also Goddess of Practicality, there's a playlist called Lessons from a Sixth Line, and you can see all of the recordings there. So feel free to check it out on my Instagram or check it out on my YouTube page. But really, really cool stuff, really fun, the interaction, and I hope you enjoy it. So here we go. This is recording number 1 of my series, Lessons from a Sixth Line, the Fallacy of Failure. I hope you like it. Hello, Instagram. Christelle Robinson Tiedemann here, coming to you live for the first time. I love saying my name. I just got married a few months ago. So any excuse to say my entire name, Christelle Robinson Tiedemann, is exciting for me. Hi to everyone who's joining. So just bear with me, everybody, because this is my first time. So I don't exactly know what I'm doing. And it actually is perfect for the topic that we'll be talking about today. So welcome to Lessons from a Sixth Line. And this is a series that I'm going to be doing here on my Instagram. And I'm going to be discussing different lessons, different things that I've learned along the years as a sixth line profile in human design. And feel free to say hello if you're here. If somebody could say that you can hear me and that you could see me, that would be great before I go on blabbing and nobody can actually hear what I'm saying. So that would be awesome if somebody could do that for me. And I will continue as I wait for someone to let me know that you can hear me and you can see me. In the comments. Let me make sure everything's on. Okay, so as a human design profile sixth line, I'm a 4/6 projector, and if anybody doesn't know that much about human design, please feel free to peruse my Instagram page for more information. But this is really going to be an open discussion. You don't really need to know anything about human design to get in this. It's more like this is for everybody, but the human design perspective comes in just from my profile line. And the profile represents kind of the personality archetype of an individual. And each person has a unique profile, and there are 12 profile lines. The first number is the conscious experience, that you know that about yourself, those personality traits. And then the second number is the unconscious ones that you might not know. So this is all about lessons from a sixth line. And
I have my notes here I'm going to be looking down on. So if you see me looking down, that's what I'm doing. And as a sixth line, we are a very special type. We are called the role models. And if there are any 3 lines in here that can relate to anything that we're saying, you count 2, because a sixth line kind of operates as a 3 line for the first 30 years of their life. That profile, that's called the martyr, it kind of ties into the 6th line. So the 6th line is a role model, the 3 line is the martyr. And for the first 30 years of our lives as a 6th line, we act as a martyr, which means that we really experience life through trial and error. And this trial and error aspect is what our topic is today. So the topic today is failure. And this is something that anybody can relate to, whether you know anything about human design or not. And the reason I want to have this be the topic first is because, one, this was a huge milestone for me to overcome. And it's probably one of the biggest lessons that I can share. And then the second reason is that I think it's something that I see kind of coming up a lot in the inner work world, and I think a lot of people can relate. Thank you for the hearts. Again, if anybody could comment and say that you can hear me and you can see me, that would be really great, so that I know for sure that you can hear what I'm saying. Again, bear with me, please, because I genuinely have no idea what I'm doing, and it's perfect for our topic today. So, okay, talking about failure. So as a 6th line who operates as a 3 line for the first 30 years of our life, we're all about trial and error. We are really the explorers of life, okay? Like really get in there, get our hands and feet dirty, and we learn by experiencing things, kind of having them kind of blow up in our face maybe, and then getting a lesson and moving on from there. So a lot of things that I heard growing up were things like this. You don't listen to anybody, do you? Those who don't hear, feel. What's another favorite one that my mom used to say? Oh, you have to burn to learn, don't you? So these are the kind of things that I heard growing up, like from my mom, from elders, kind of like these constant lessons of don't make mistakes. Why don't you listen to what I'm saying so then you don't have to go through making mistakes? And what actually happened is I integrated this into my subconscious, and I actually grew up thinking that I was stupid. To kind of complicate things, I have ADHD. So being a kid with ADHD, it was like constant, like sit down, stop doing that, behave, be quiet, stop being disruptive, come from there, don't do that. Pay attention. But like this, it was just this constant kind of like being corrected, hi Kabibi, hi Cynthia, being constantly redirected. And subconsciously, I learned this lesson. I didn't even question it. I integrated this belief into my subconscious that 1, I'm stupid. And that 2, that there's something like a little bit wrong with me. So this constant redirection that to not do this, not do that, cut it out, why don't you listen? Let's do what I'm telling you to do. Really kind of taught me that I don't do things right. But I couldn't really help it. This was just my nature. There was obviously nothing wrong with me. But I genuinely did not even dispute that belief. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago, and my husband was played a huge role in this realization for me. But he by no means was the first, but I guess being up close and personal and being in a very intimate relationship, I got to see his view of me through his eyes. And I genuinely didn't question it. And it wasn't until recently that he actually asked me, it's a couple of years ago, that like, why do you say these things? Like, why do you mention things about not being that smart, not being that bright? Oh, well, you know me. Oh, these kind of, like, why do you do that? And what he shared with me was that not only did he think I was brilliant, but it was almost like he said, like, scary smart. And something clicked in my head in that moment, because I had heard that so many times in previous relationships about this kind of like, man, you are crazy smart. It's like intimidating. It's too much. And it was like, pew, it never resonated in my heart. It was just like this thing that passed through because this belief was so strong in me. And I just want to preface this and say that I am not blaming parents, okay? This is not about making anybody right or wrong. I completely understand why I was told the things that I was told. And I understand that they were definitely trying to do their best for me, teachers and stuff. But, you know, the little kid brain, it doesn't necessarily understand the why behind what our elders are doing. We just kind of take it at face value exactly what we're getting, and it becomes our truth. So the truth that I had never questioned all the way through childhood into my adulthood was that I was dumb. And apparently all these people behind the scenes thought I was freaking brilliant. I'm the only one who didn't have the memo. And what it came down to was that I had to kind of go through things, fail, and then learn, and then go to the other thing. I had to do it my way. I had to go through my experience. And the feedback that I got from my elders was a lot of fear and a lot of wrongness and a lot of badness. So I'm gonna read this comment. Is the saying "being smart for your own good" part of the same thing? Yes, and I think it's you're too smart for your own good. I think that's the saying. I completely agree. I think that is the same thing. And that one has a lot to do with like, you're so smart, you don't want to listen to what anybody else is saying. But we have to question, why is it that we should not experience things in our own way? Why is it that we need to learn lessons the way that other people have learned lessons? That is not necessarily our process. That is not necessarily your process. The lesson that was in that for you to learn, that there was something in every experience that was necessary for us to learn from. But because it seems very triggering and scary to those that care about you, they feel in caring for you, it's coming from love, that they can tell you which lessons are okay for you to learn and which lessons aren't okay for you to learn. Please feel free to say hi as you come in. Hi. Hi, Steph. So I wanted to kind of begin with this idea of sharing that I really thought truly that I was dumb. And hi, honey, in my inner work, in this process, this journey, I realized that every single thing that happened to me in my life was happening for me. And I would not be standing here today able to share and teach anything if it wasn't for these experiences. So the sixth line is called the role model because we go through these three distinct stages. The first 30, where we operate as a 3-line, the martyr, the trial and error, is experiencing life hands-on. The second stage, which is between approximately 30 to 50, is where we stand back. We become introspective, kind of integrate those lessons and observe the world, where we take those lessons and we're creating something. And then the third phase is when we emerge as the role model. We emerge as this great teacher. Please don't take these like timelines too literally. I'm definitely in the teaching, but I am very much also in my observing. So I feel myself in that in between of the final stage and the mid stage. But none of this would have happened if it wasn't for the beginning stage. So we have this thing in our culture. We have this thing where it's like failure is this terrible thing, absolutely horrendous thing that we should never do. And I know that there are plenty of studies out there that show that this is even stronger for females, for women, and for young girls. So the idea of getting something wrong is so scary that sometimes we don't even try it, right? This played a huge role in my life. Huge role in my life. Oh my gosh. Okay, so as a 3/6, you get what I'm saying more than anyone else, because that 3 line continues throughout your entire life experience. So even though, and let me tell you how you are the most powerful teacher, because you have the 6th line, you are stepping into that powerful role model, but you are always going to be trial and erroring. So it is so important for us to get rid of this fear of failure. Fear of failure, fear of failure, fear of failure. How many times have we heard this in anybody stepping into the personal development world? You hear it all the time. It's like something so common that people say all the time. I have a fear of failure, fear of success. So having that 3 line, you're going to trial and error all the time. But can we step back for a second and think about how it is impossible to do anything without failing? So were we all babies? Anybody here come out of the womb just talking and walking? No. Babies stumble around like little drunks and fall on their faces and are happy and gleeful about it, and we cheer them on. We know that this is an absolute part of life. And it's something that we learn as we get older. This is purely part of our socialization, this idea that all of a sudden there's a point in your life where making mistakes or messing something up should no longer be allowed. So we know that we have to trial and error things to figure it out. Our entire medical field, medical breakthroughs wouldn't exist without the idea of experimentation. What is experimentation? Experimentation is literally failing until you don't, trying it until you get it. We have to do this in order to learn anything in our lives, but then we become adults, and all of a sudden the greatest thing that we fear is for anyone to see us make a mistake. Let me see what you guys are saying. I recently realized that experiencing failure has brought me my greatest success. Precisely. Apparently babies try 10,000 times before they were able to walk. They fail a lot. Exactly. And we have never once, oh my gosh, Abraham Hicks, if anybody is a follower of Abraham Hicks, they always say, when do you ever say to a little kid, get up, you little dummy, when they're trying to walk and they're learning how to walk? We don't ever do that. But all of a sudden we become adults and that's it. You're just supposed to know everything off the bat. This idea of failing is horrendous, and anybody seeing you make a mistake, it's horrendous. So the thing that I think that we don't even really think about too deeply is that the idea of us making a mistake, the idea of us failing, it's actually very specific. So most of us don't fear failing everything, do we? We make mistakes all throughout our life. Who here actually believes that they're perfect? I certainly don't. No one actually consciously believes that they're perfect. So we make mistakes every day, all the time. We go through our lives not doing things perfectly. And there are certain select things, and it will be depending on your upbringing. It will be depending on, I have ADHD, like conditions that you have, the type of parents that you have, the school that you went to, whatever, racial thing. It could be depending on all different things. We actually individually decide, and our subconscious makes us think that the whole world agrees with us. But it's your story. It's your own story, that thing that you tell yourself you're not supposed to make a mistake in, that you're not to fail in. It's not universal. Everybody comes with their own. So it's actually just a few things. Who here has said that, like, I'm never going to cook anything because I might make a mistake? Most of us don't do that. We're willing to fail at a recipe. We're willing to make a mistake writing something for the first time at work. Whatever it is, we're willing to do. But there are certain things that We just will not attempt. We just tell ourselves it doesn't exist. We just absolutely refuse to engage with because of this idea that we can make a mistake. Steph says, ugh, I've been terrified of failure and I know it really holds me back. Yes. So here's the thing. Let's really step back for a second, okay? I have been contemplating this for a really long time. So as a person who is super familiar with trial and error, I have made so many mistakes in my life. Not a single one that I regret to this day because of where it got me. But there are certain things that I mess up on all the time and I don't really care about. So I had to ask myself, this can't be the whole story. This idea of I don't want to fail, this can't be the full thing. So I've been contemplating for some time, what really is it about? What's really holding me back? And it's from one of my mentors that this snapped into place. So Melanie Ann Lair talks about the idea of feminine energy and masculine energy. Most of us know that. The masculine energy wound is, she says, is shame and guilt. So this is what I've been talking about here. This idea that I don't want to make a mistake in anybody. I don't want anyone to think that I did something wrong. Your parents don't want you to think that you did it. Someone to think that you did something wrong. It would bring them shame, guilt. This is a masculine energy wound. On the other end of it, the feminine energy wound is disappointment. And this really blew my mind. And that brought the final piece together. Are we actually that afraid of failing? Or is it because we fail all the time, okay? Remember, we do it all the time. So that person who, I've wanted to start this business for however long and I'm not doing it. But nobody stopped me from binge drinking that other night and puking, or you date that disaster person yet again. We fail in all of these ways all the time. So we are definitely doing this all the time. It's just these certain things that we're not. What stops us from those certain things? And it really has come down to the idea of disappointment for myself. That thing that you actually care so much about. The idea of it not working out, it has to do with disappointment. Can you actually hold disappointment in your body? Yes. Have we ever been disappointed before? Yes. Are we okay? Yes. But this idea for us that I could want something so freaking much and then it could not happen or that it could not go well is so painful to us in theory that we tell ourselves we can't do it and we won't go there. It is so easy to hide behind the idea of it's a fear of failure. But is it truly? Because you are constantly making mistakes in your life. And if that was a novel idea to anybody here, if that was the first time that you've ever realized that you've made a mistake, wow, I would like for you to take a moment there and really integrate that into your being, because you're making mistakes every single day. Every single day you're making mistakes. And I'm going to use an example from a client, okay? So I have this client who is the most incredible artist. This person is financially stable and they want to have art be at the forefront of what they do. But they've been taking regular jobs over and over again for the stability of it, because it seems really scary. The idea of coming up with what do I do with my art? Will it sell? How will I sell it? Who's going to like it? Nobody's going to like it. What's it worth? I'll give it for free. All of these ideas, right? But this is the same person who has overcome so much adversity in their life. so much adversity in their life, okay? They've overcome addiction. They've overcome abuse. They've overcome, they also have ADHD. They have overcome so many things in their life that they are truly one of the most resilient human beings I have ever met in my life. Let's just talk about the sobriety period, okay? They're coming up to 5 years of being sober, and some really scary stuff happened in their downtimes. And this person, I'll mention again, is very financially stable. So it's not like if I quit my job, I'm going to fall apart. Or if I don't have this job, things are going to fall apart. But the idea of them really focusing on their art is the most terrifying thing. And why is that? So I have to bring it up to her like, are you telling me that you were willing to do this? You were willing to put yourself in that situation. You were willing to put yourself in that situation. You're willing to put yourself in that situation. All these scary things and overcome them. But the idea of truly being the artist that you are is the most terrifying thing. So what does that come down to? Disappointment. It comes down to this idea that the ability for me to withstand the disappointment of if it doesn't work out is too much and I can't handle it. Well, I'm here today to let you know that you're gonna be okay. I have been failing at my heart's desire for the past 6 months now. And when I say failing, I say this with love, as in like it's trial and error. It was the most terrifying thing for me to open up this Instagram. I don't know how to use Instagram. I don't know how to do social media. I'm never on social media. I don't like social media. Me and social media don't work. Blah, 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 blah. Scariest thing ever. The amount of things that I've accomplished in my life, moving to New York City all by my freaking self 10 years ago, no big deal. But open your social media. Nope, impossible. Is this a fear of failure? No, this was the idea that I love this thing. I'm so obsessed with this desire. I have such a burning desire inside of me. The idea that if it didn't work out killed me so much that I didn't even make a move towards it. But the pain that I was feeling about this disappointment was way worse in the theory of it than actually in the practice of it. Because do you know what happened? Opening the social media was freaking fun. Because it was mine. It was my creation. I didn't have any followers. It had nothing to do with having followers. Just opening it, just doing it was so much fun. So this idea of disappointment really didn't even play a role here. It was just the doing of it. Okay. So the next thing is creating content. Oh, you love talking about human design? Okay. Oh, so you absolutely adore inner work and you just do it for free. You're doing it all the time anyway, so you'd just be posting it. Huh. Okay. It's fun. So I'm in the process of it. Failure has played no role. There was no part where I was doing this for the outcome. I'm doing it because it feels so amazing to me. So in theory, the theory of how it would feel for things to not work out was actually way worse than the actual practice. Way worse than what I actually felt in my body. So what happened was I was terrified to make my first post. I made my first post. Okay, it was okay. It was a little bit rusty. All right, here we go. We make the second post. Okay, that was better. Third post, better. Fourth post. Getting the hang of this. Fifth post. I don't need to edit that long. It doesn't take me 3 weeks now to come up with one post. It takes me 2 hours. All of these trial and error things, all of these failures were fun, were part of the process, were the thing that actually got me to where I am today, which is still in the midst of figuring it out. I have no idea how this live works. I hope that everyone's hearing and seeing me because I see the hundreds and the stars. Thank you. But I had to come on here and just shoot my shot. And guess what? If it didn't work out, if I messed it up somehow, so freaking what? I will try it again. So the lesson here the major lesson here from a sixth line really comes down to looking at yourself and your experience, your belief, your limiting beliefs around what you can do and what you can't do and why. If you find yourself resonating at all with the idea of having a fear of failure, I want you to ask yourself what you're actually afraid of. What you're actually afraid of. And I have a strong feeling that it will come down to the feeling of disappointment. And then I want you to ask yourself if you've ever been disappointed before. And then I want you to ask yourself if you are okay. And then I want you to do the thing. So I want to see what everybody's saying. Sounds familiar. You're changing lives. Oh, thank you. I'm sitting here and my 6-year-old came over to watch. We both needed this today. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. So let me know what's coming up for you. Tell me what's coming up for you. Does this resonate? Does this make sense? Or if you have a different perspective, if it doesn't make sense, tell me anything that's coming up for you at all. Such a powerful message. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad that you resonate. So I thought of this as my first topic because it comes up so often. I'm by no means the only one. And I did think I was the only one. I'm by no means the only one. And the other aspect is that it's something that we kind of perpetuate so unconsciously that I really want us to start getting rid of this need, this desire to be perfect, to always get it right while we're not perfect. We are desiring to be perfect all the time while we're being imperfect. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So if we're going to be imperfect, why not imperfectly do the thing that you love? Why not imperfectly be happy instead of imperfectly attempt to be perfect and unhappy? Such a powerful message. Definitely resonates the fear of disappointment. Yes. I also feel the fear of success. Yes. That is definitely one for another topic for another day. The feeling of how it will turn out is way worse or more harsh than the reality of trying. Isn't it though? But isn't it? One of the huge things that I've learned in the past 6 months especially was when I started to step into somatic healing. And that's like really processing your emotions, really feeling your emotions in your body. And it was the first time that I really realized that emotions aren't bad. They're not terrible. But my fear around the expression of my emotion will not only prolong the emotion so much longer, but it's my thought around the emotion that's causing me the anxiety rather than just feel the freaking anger and let it run through my body. Just feel the sadness and let it run through my body. Crying is now my favorite thing. I just allow myself to let that energy pass through. I've become a more compassionate person. I've become a more courageous person because I realized that my emotions were not even half as scary in real life as they were in my head. So thank you so much for saying that. I started to really overcome the fear of disappointment by realizing the biggest disappointment would be not trying at all. Yes, that's another thing that my mentor Melanie ™ mentions a lot. And it may sound morbid, but she says, imagine that you had 10 more minutes to live. I'm sitting here in a session with you and I'm telling you, let's just go with this business. You want to be a coach forever? No, I'm not ready. I need another course. And okay, you have 10 more minutes to live and you never got to do it. Okay, no, I just need a little more time. Just 1 more minute. I'll try. I'll just try. The thing that we want to do, that we get so focused on the outcome for, like the outcome of and how other people think about it, is a complete misguide. Like it is just like it's like a red herring. Like you just got put on the wrong trail because the reason you want to do it is for the doing of it. It's for the doing of it. And I actually challenge you to ask yourself that if you're only interested in doing it for the outcome, is that really worth you doing? Or going through all of that? If it was really just for the outcome, okay, then drop it. But if you have been having this thing niggle at you, like I've had my desire to coach just be underneath the surface, harassing me for years and not going away and just not giving it attention and just like pushing it aside and just feeling unfulfilled and feeling unfulfilled and feeling unfulfilled. If that's the thing, if that desire just doesn't leave you alone, it's not for the outcome. It's for the doing of it. You're going to feel the joy in the process of it. So you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Whoa. So true. Yeah, I absolutely agree. So all of this comes together to say that when it comes down to it, the idea of failure, the idea of lessons, and I really wanted to bring this up as a line 6 because the majority of my life, I have been experiencing lessons and thinking that there's something wrong with me every single time that I made a mistake or that something didn't work out the way that I wanted it to. When in reality, every single lesson that I learned brought me to the next step, to the next step, to the next step. And on top of all of that, my destiny is to be able to share, is to be able to teach, is to be able to really assess the purpose of life and living life to the fullest. So how could I have done that in any other way? Would it have been really beneficial for me to be able to grow up not thinking there was anything wrong with the trial and error? Absolutely. But either way, here we are. We can, though, going forward, treat ourselves a little bit differently. Wallace Goes West, I think you were saying, talking about your kid, like imagine that we didn't have to spread this to our kids. Imagine that we didn't have to constantly be trying to avoid them making mistakes so that they can learn their own lessons. While we learned our own lessons and are better off for it, maybe we can allow them to also make their mistakes and encourage them. Let them know that trying new things is great. Let them know that it's so absolutely necessary to become great at something, to have fun, is to try things that you're not necessarily good at, mess it up, and keep going. Like if we could spread this message to the younger generations and also start treating ourselves in that way, what difference could we make? So what else is coming up for you guys? Does anybody have any questions? Lessons are not mistakes. They are inevitable. They simply take us to our next step. Exactly. The idea here that I really want to kind of drive home is that you are making mistakes. You are imperfect. You are going to fail at things. This is inevitable. This is life. So if this is just an aspect of life, what things would you rather fail at? Can we start failing at the things that matter to us? Can we start actually taking steps towards the things that really, really, really matter to us? Because you're going to fail anyways. So can we just fail forward? Instead of living mediocre lives, not stepping into our truth, and failing anyways, because that is part of life. You are not perfect and you're never going to be. You are never going to be. So if we're going to be that, what we are, freaking human, let's fail big, which is really to achieve. Yes. Oh, exactly. I'm so glad you're loving it. So stop fearing it. Yeah. And I mean, to be honest, the fearing part, I have mixed feelings about that. I will say that there is a disproportionate amount of fear that I think that we can experience and we can bring that down. But I don't think that we have to not be afraid. I think the idea of thinking that you're only ready when you're not scared is unrealistic and unfair to yourself and to other people. we tend to just like put people on these pedestals. Think of the mentors and celebrities, people out there that we admire, that we look up to. Why do we always think that they're not nervous, that they're not scared, that they're not afraid, that they, don't poop? They do all the freaking things just like we do, but they just have realized that they would rather freaking fail at what they want. They would rather fail big than not do this thing that really means something to them at all. So I don't actually think you need to not be afraid. I do think, though, that if you're so frozen with the fear, this is the time when we start doing our somatics, really start learning how to process the emotion and have fear sit with you and just go through, go forward. If there's any moms here, I know there are some moms here, some parents here, to a certain degree, don't you guys kind of always have like a little bit of like an underlying fear in you all the time, especially when your kid's out of your sight? Like, I think there are certain things that are just a part of life, like fear and worry. Another one of my mentors is Mina Irfan, and she is the evolutionary queen, okay? So fight or flight is ingrained into our bodies. And this is one of the reasons why I absolutely adore human design, is because human design really teaches us to step out into a new consciousness, to move away from our primitive nature. So fight or flight is a part of a human experience. What it used to be was, lions and tigers and bears. Like it was real dangers that our body gave us these cues so that we could stay alive. Your brain is made for you to stay alive. But most of us don't live in those environments anymore. Most of us are not necessarily in life or death situations. If you were in life or death situations, my God, fear is super important, right? But we are so much more comfortable, but our bodies haven't really upgraded to where our consciousness is yet, that we now, our lions and tigers and bears, are building your business, are putting your art out there, are going live on Instagram. Like the way my heart was beating, So what it takes is actually stepping into the consciousness of understanding that I'm okay. I am not dying. I am afraid because my mind, my psyche has so associated doing this thing that's scary with dying, because that's actually apparently what it is. It's that when we feel disapproval from the clan or disapproval from the group, from an evolutionary basis, it was because you would be left out of the tribe. You would be left out of the clan. And if you were left out of the clan, then you would die. So there is an evolutionary reason for why we like approval from others. But we have the consciousness now. We have the consciousness now to know that that's not going to happen, that we can take care of ourselves. So we have to have our consciousness step in and soothe the body, soothe the nervous system, allow ourselves to have a certain amount of fear and move forward and do your damn thing. Fail forward. I love that. Absolutely. I have to constantly remind myself that motherhood is not about them having a perfect childhood, but about raising resilient people. Boom. Absolutely it. I work in an inpatient psychiatry unit, and I see a full range of people, okay? Like most of my patients are homeless, and really, the lowest end of the socioeconomic status. And then I have, very economically well-to-do individuals. And what I can tell you consistently that I see for a lot of the mood disorder, some of these mood disorder patients that come from really well-to-do families, is this kind of idea of being so protected. Their fear of everything is so debilitating to them. And sometimes having things so freaking cushy in your life means that when you now step into the world, you don't have the means to actually be able to hold disappointment, hold failure, hold feedback, hold, oh my gosh, one thing that comes up constantly when we talk to people about, what's the new, is it Gen X? Is that the generation under ours. I think it's Gen X. But I hear a lot of people say like, man, they have a really hard time taking feedback. But this idea that I'm not perfect in your eyes, you don't see me in this certain way is so debilitating. That is not helpful. So we went from completely neglectfulness and like the things that, some of our parents and our parents allowed children to do, to the side of like pretty much keeping them in a bubble. Neither one is helpful. It's just two different levels of issues coming up. They have to be able to be resilient. They have to be able to fall and get back up. They have to know that it's okay, that it's totally okay, and that you're going to be okay. I'm okay. Such an important reminder. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not going to die. I'm not going to die without their approval. You're not going to die. You're not going to die. But you know what's actually amazing is that some people might not stand what you have to say. A lot of people might hate what I have to say or hate my face. But the people that do, the thank yous, the oh my God, I needed to hear that today, is exactly what I'm living for, because other people were brave and did that for me. And I am so grateful for their willingness to fail, for their willingness to put a message out there that someone might not agree with, so that I could hear it and that I could step out of my shell. I am so grateful for having to come up against the idea that I can fail and it's okay, that you're not only not dumb, but you're actually brilliant. And do you know what a huge part of your brilliance comes from? Your endless amount of life experiences. So that when somebody comes to me and, they say, I did this big horrendous thing, don't worry. Been there, done that. This is what makes us relatable. This is what makes us an expert. Like, you can read all you want about a certain topic, but I'm sorry. I want to hear from somebody who's been through it and has come up from that and knows how it feels. This is what makes you actually so impactful in your life, in your business, friendships, your relationships, whatever it is in your life. So, my request for you today, my challenge that I'm going to place out there, is to ask yourself, really, really sit and ask yourself with what your relationship with failure is and what is your ability to hold disappointment. Can you self-soothe? Can you actually realize that you're not perfect? And then you're not perfect. I'm not saying it as an insult. I'm saying it as a freaking fact. So if we're not perfect, can you imperfectly go after what it is that you want? Journal on it. Let me know. Type your comments underneath this live. Let me know how you felt. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for every single person that joined in and stayed with me and commented. A really good book that I found really, really helpful around this topic is called The Genius Zone by Gay Hendricks. He's the writer of The Big Leap. This is the sequel to that. It's called The Genius Zone. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant book. But it really talks about us being able to step into doing this thing that we love, this passionate thing that we love, that isn't necessarily the thing that you're amazingly, that you get right every time, but it's the thing that lights you up every time. That is your genius zone, and that we need to all be living in our genius zone. So check it out. I feel like I have a new hope and motivation. Oh, that makes me feel so good. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody that joined in. Oh, I'm so glad that you're here. And I'm really, really proud of myself for doing this. So high five to me for being willing to fail. And for anybody that I touched today, it was both ways. Thank you so much for coming in and hanging out with me. And I can't wait for the next one. See ya.